Hey folks, what's going on? It's me, Andrew Westmoreland, back again with yet another video, and we're going to talk about the Portland protests, I guess you could say. I know a lot of people were watching that today, and I, for one, was not really available to watch it in full. However, I want to go into some of this stuff now. Oh, man. Obviously, this video is going to be demonetized and deranked. If you don't know what that means that YouTube will put it in a limited state. It'll have some ads, like maybe 10% ads. It'll be from, like, I don't know, cigarette companies. Well, cigarette companies even advertise anymore. Beer, or movies or video games or something that doesn't really care. But it'll also be deranked, so only a few people see it. And if you notice, my view count is severely down, and that's in part by the algorithm. If you're not throwing out like 5-6 videos a day, constantly posting every single day with no breaks, it punishes you. Blah blah blah. We all know this. So yeah, it's if you want to support this video, please hit the like button, please comment, please share. Sharing is huge. If you share this on social media and share it out and get the word out, it does a huge help, because YouTube is not suggesting my videos, or it doesn't do politics or news anymore. It only supports mainstream media like Fox News here. So let's get into the story. Portland mayor praises police after largely peaceful day of far-right, far-left demonstrations. Now, I want to immediately say that the assessment of mainstream media is, I typically I don't agree with this, in the sense that they're calling the Proud Boys and Patriot Prayer far right necessarily. They're definitely solidly conservative. There's no doubt about that. I'd probably call them alt-light, but far right means a very specific thing. Typically, when we're talking about politics, it's economic versus liberty. Economic and liberty scale. If you are a far right person, that either means economically you are a capitalist, free market capitalist to the extreme far right, or far right could also mean you're far right authoritarian. I don't think they're either of those. I think they're fairly, I don't want to call them moderates. They're not regular conservatives. They're definitely more aggressive. But calling them far right, that's just not accurate. It doesn't mean anything. It's a very vague term, nebulous term. Far left, again, typically you don't see this when we're talking about Antifa. So I will give them some praise on that, calling Antifa far left. And that would be more accurate, because Antifa is very specifically communist, or socialist isn't even true either. They're very, very much anarcho-communists, or just communists in general. Very weird group. Anyway, so much to cover. I'm going to try to not make this an hour long. I'm going to shoot for 30 minutes because I have a lot to say about this. Okay. Portland mayor Saturday night says his city had avoided the worst case scenario after members of far-right groups and far-left members of Antifa held dueling demonstrations in the center of the city that lasted for hours on end. Again, I don't think that calling them far-right is a fair assessment. I just really don't. I think that's really pushing it. I honestly don't want to read this part because it just seems silly. Police did an Police did an exemplary job of de-escalating the situation, keeping the extremists on both sides separate for the most part, and limiting interactions between individuals. That's not true, and I have tons of evidence to support that. Officers have seized weapons from multiple groups, bear spray, shields, metal, and wooden poles. Well, a shield isn't a weapon necessarily. It literally is a shield, like to block things. It's a defensive thing, but whatever. We already know whose this is. This is the right side, and the left are the ones with actual weapons. Typically, and these kind of interactions, this stuff is really complicated, and it's just Police Chief Daniel Outlaw. Okay, this is what I was trying to tell my friends before. I keep noticing stuff like this in news. Stuff, it's like our universe is degrading, like the simulation is ending, and like the computer is dying that we're in, because we like, okay, the police, like, it's it's super ironic. A police chief, his name is Outlaw. Okay, wow, that's Danielle, like a female, but anyway. All right, so I want to get into, let me jump straight to this. This is violence. There's violence, there is cursing, chaos. So I just want to warn you, this clip that I'm going to show from Ford Fisher from News to Share is a little extreme. So let's just jump into this. This is, you know, he posted this on his Twitter, so it's fine. And I don't know who this guy is, but he looks like he was just trying to go through the group and see what would happen to him. He looks like he's not engaging, he's not saying anything. And he's being like assaulted by Antifa people.
Come on, motherfuckers! Come on! Come on, man! Come the fuck on! What's up?
This looks like a
What's up, man? Motherfucker,
guy on the right.
Back up now, fucking punk! Tell me to back the fuck up before he goes down. What's up? What's up?
It looked like he tripped that other guy.
Back up! Back the fuck up! Get away! Back the fuck up out of my way! Don't touch me! Hey, don't touch me! Back up!
This chaos. I mean, there's more of this. Like, I really, honestly, there's really no point to keep sharing. Like, there's just stuff you can go on Twitter and you can look at these links. You know, more drama, constant drama. People are fighting. People were arrested. Running, screaming, cussing. Insanity. Just insanity. And here's the thing. When we look at this stuff, you need to understand that there are violent, sick individuals who are advocating for more violence. They want escalation. They want this to get worse. They have some weird fantasy in their head. They believe in anarchy and destruction of society and all that stuff. And they want the world to burn. Let's just keep reading. This is from NBC News. Again, far right. I'm just like, come on. Far right rally in Portland met by anti-fascist protesters. Well, keep calling them anti-fascist. Call them Antifa. Saying they're anti-fascist implies that the right-wing people were fascist. And, you know, it's framed wrong, and it's just wrong. It's incorrect. That's not what happened. President Trump tweeted about the demonstrations, saying that there's consideration to label Antifa a organization of terror. As I've said before, I am in favor of that to a degree. I believe when I made that video, I was a little concerned with how far that can go, and, you know, typically you don't want the government to willy-nilly call groups terrorists, but this group has shown to be extremely violent. Let's see. Rally of far-right groups was met by a large counter-demonstration in Portland, Oregon on Saturday. They closed it down. 13 people arrested. 6 people were hospitalized, minor injuries. So, for the most part, it wasn't a terrible, horrible day. We do have instances of stuff like that where it can get really bad. And, people are severely hurt. Like we saw the Andy No situation where they beat him severely and caused him to have a brain hemorrhage. And there was some brain damage. At the very least, there was cognitive difference post-attack. He had slurred speech and he was struggling to speak and stuff. And this is well documented. Let's just keep going. Okay, this is from Oregon Live. Portland protests, 13 arrested, police declare civil disturbance. Framing is everything. So I'm reading, I have a whole bunch of articles up on purpose. It's all about framing, and I'm going through them one by one so you can see how they frame these things. Right-wing activists and those protesting their presence converged Saturday on Portland's downtown waterfront in a much-anticipated confrontation that captivated a nation inflamed by rising... This is a really long run-on sentence. Inflamed by rising division and resentment, and even Donald Trump entering the fray. With even Donald Trump reading the fray. That should be at least 2 sentences. But where's a copy editor? Framing. Very neutral, very fair, right-wing activists, which those groups are. They didn't call them far-right. They just said right-wing activists. Okay. And those protesting their presence. Very neutral. I mean, that's as neutral as you could get. To claim that Antifa is those protesting their presence without labeling all the people that were there. Sure. Police mostly succeeded. Mostly is the key word. I keep saying mostly succeeded in separating demonstrators. Ideological spectrum as members of the Proud Boys and counter protesters both arrived at Tom McCall Waterfront Park. Proud Boys gathered to condemn self-described anti-fascist activists, or Antifa, who publicly confront those they believe espouse racist or bigoted views and who have a large presence in Portland. Okay, so this is the thing. You have to sit here and look at the information. The talking points I get from people when I talk about Antifa is always like the typical talking point of who does the more violence, like what's the death count and all that stuff. And I'm like, well, from both of these 2 segments, 0 to 0. Like, no one has killed each other. They haven't killed anyone. Patriot Prayer hadn't killed anyone. Proud Boys hasn't killed anyone. As far as I know, Antifa hasn't killed anyone. But Antifa is the most violent group. Now, they always try to conflate Antifa with like the KKK or Timothy McVeigh or something, and it's like they're very different things. They're very different types of terrorism. Antifa is a disorganized or unorganized chaos insurgency, where that's what they do. They cause chaos. And yeah, they attack people in the streets and they do their black bloc tactics. When Patriot Prayer or Proud Boys or when all those people, they're like a boys club, like a gentleman's club is being generous. They're dudes. They drink, they talk shit, they beat each other up, and they started to beat up Antifa. They are typically conservative, but they're far right. No, I again, what does that mean? So I'm going to keep going. CNN now. Far left far-right protesters take to Portland streets. So that's a good start for the most part. Again, I don't know if I call them far-right. When you like this picture alone is interesting, because now when we have this modern era, when we have these conservative groups, they have non-white people like this black man who are also members, and I believe this guy is the president of the Proud Boys, if I'm not mistaken. If not the Proud Boys Patriot Prayer. Okay, and he's black, so they're calling them white supremacists, falsely calling them white supremacist organizations and stuff. I'm like, it's like words have meanings and definitions, and apparently people are so desperate for ratings and clicks and views that they're just saying nonsense. They're just muddying the waters on purpose. If it's not for money or fame, it's for the ideological left, the far left, who are trying to change the definitions of words to mean what they want because it's convenient for them when they're doing their insanity. So basically, you could be a white supremacist now if you're black. Like they're crazy. So let's read. More than a dozen people were arrested Saturday, and 6 others were injured as left-wing anti-fascist demonstrators spent hours counter-protesting against a rally by far-right and extremist groups. Oh, and then CNN Sarah Snyder spoke to... I like Sarah, but girl, you need to leave CNN. You need a new job. CNN is trash. Okay, let's go through this again. Break this down. More than a dozen people were arrested Saturday and 6 others were injured as left-wing anti-fascist demonstrators spent hours counter-protesting against a rally by far-right and extremist groups. This is framed as if the Antifa people are anti-fascist. See how this is worded? Left-wing anti-fascist demonstrators, not rioters. They were beating people in the streets, cussing and stuff. Demonstrators. Oh, that's very, very interesting. Anti-fascist demonstrators spent hours, like they went, they did put in work, counter-protesting against a rally by far-right and extremist groups. This is very, very important stuff here. Framing is everything. They are framing this as if the right-wing people in this picture are like bad, evil people. They're the bad guys, and the far left Antifa movement, those people are the good guys. They put in work for hours fighting against those bad far right Nazis. Like that's basically what they're saying here. The nicest way possible to say that. This is probably the most biased sentence that I have seen in a while. It's bad. Like this is really bad. That's like super biased. Like I can't. Wow. Let's look at Vox. Sure, this is going to be fun. Ahead of far-right rally in Portland, and this was yesterday at 5 p.m. This is at 4 a.m. on the 18th that I am recording this, so it's been all day. Ahead of far rally, Portland, Trump tweets a warning to Antifa. He said he wanted to make them an organization of terror. Now, this picture is from the D.C. march in July. This was a July 6, 2019 in D.C. And I try to highlight to people, black bloc tactics is everyone wears black or dark color, as close to black as possible. They cover their face, they cover their eyes. Gloves, you don't want fingerprints. And notice how this dude's gloves on the right here, padded, like they've got the impact padding, so if you hit somebody, it's gonna F them up. Their flags are mounted to thick wooden poles and or metal. Sometimes I've seen metal poles, They use them as weapons. Like, it's literally, that's what they do that for. The thick poles are double as weapons. They give out literature and propaganda to their members and tell them, like, this is how you do this. This is how you use the flag. You could use it as a weapon. Okay. This is what they do. They wear all black and stuff because they make it harder for police to identify them. They could just blend into the rest of the riot, and it's a intelligent guerrilla tactic, I guess you could say, for street violence. Now, let's go through this last bit here. We're at 20 minutes. Really interesting stuff. Let's see what Trump said, or let's see what Vox has to say about Trump, really. President Trump issued a stark warning to Antifa, the collective of militant. Well, that's interesting. Vox actually put militant anti-fascist leftist groups. Interesting. Ahead of a rally on Saturday in Portland, Oregon, where Antifa activists were widely expected to confront far-right activists. Again, everyone, most media these days, mainstream media, uses that term far-right. Just, it's sloppy, it's incorrect, and frankly, it's like crying wolf all the time. If you use the word incorrectly and you're just, everyone's far-right, who is like, I don't know, like, what does that even mean? Like, they never explain what that means. They just label these conservative groups far right. They never say, well, what makes them far right? They're far right. The word means nothing now, basically. Like, if I try to use it in, like I was trying to explain earlier, in a correct manner, there's very actual few far right people. And it's just incorrect. It's just not correct. When we actually look at the Overton window and what's been happening in politics in America, the opposite is true. We have the far right, the far left that are actually becoming an issue. And for some reason, mainstream media it talks nothing about but the far right all the time, when it's not the far right that are doing anything. It's the opposite. It's literally the far left. Far left is, we've gone through this information over and over again. I've shown my sources. I've shown this is a huge thing on alternative media. Everyone talks about the social media companies who are biased against conservatives, biased against alternative news, alternative voices, independents. This is a known, documented, factual thing now. This isn't opinion. It's not conjecture. It's not conspiracy theory. It's a literally documented fact. So, like, it's just ridiculous. Now, again, Trump says he wanted to call Antifa an organization of terror. Portland is being watched very closely. Hopefully the mayor will be able to properly do his job. Now, let's see. Notably, the president did not warn or criticize the controversial right-wing group organizing the rally that Antifa was planning to protest against. Organizers Joe Biggs and Enrique Tarrio, who did not receive a permit for the rally, are members of the Proud Boys, a group of self-proclaimed Western chauvinists with links to white supremacist rally in Charlottesville in 2017. Okay, first of all, links. What does that mean? Okay, we've gone through this information before. If not on my channel, I know I have seen the stuff it's been broken down beautifully. Framing and wording and verbiage, all this stuff in these articles are artfully done. They get away with saying things that are just absolutely not true. When they say links, they've been linked to white supremacy. That's not saying they are white supremacists. That's saying, oh, well, we can link them to white supremacy because one of their members on Twitter talked to this guy and said that he agreed with his position. Therefore, the Proud Boys now are linked to white supremacy. That's what that means. When they say linked to this or that, some bad thing, it doesn't mean that they're actually that. It means they may associate with those people, or some of them might. So it's a weak way to try to frame it. If you actually understand what they're doing here, I have to stress this stuff because people are blindly look at the news, watch TV, or read these articles, and they just constantly are getting fed fake information. It's not real. It's not real. And you're living in a warped reality. I was living in a warped reality for so long, and I'm a leftist. I'm not a conservative or a Republican or anything like that. If you've watched my channel, I'm a center left individual, and I have been pretty much my entire life. Voted Democrat always. Until recently, I voted independent and I think libertarian the last election. Point being, this stuff is important. If you want to have an accurate understanding of the world and what's been happening, you have to break this stuff down because they're lying to us. You're being lied to. They're saying Proud Boys in the same sentence. This is literally the same sentence. They're linking Proud Boys to white supremacists. And in Charlottesville in 2017, where the leftist protester Heather Heyer was killed by a right-wing terrorist, domestic terrorist. That's what they're trying to do. And that's not only it's not fair, it's dishonest, and it's pretty gross. It's gross. Now, using the Southern Poverty Law Center to say that they have designated them a hate group, they've designated everyone a hate group, and they've actually been discredited recently. Some of their top leadership and founders were exposed to be misogynist and racist and stuff. So, like, literally racist, like against black people. And it's like, I'm sorry, their word means very little to me at this point. I have a good judge of character, and I can make up my own mind as to who is racist and who's not. And I don't need this organization to say that they're a hate group. I don't think they're a hate group. I think they may be, you can call them radical or aggressive, and extremists might even be fair to call Proud Boys extremists. But come on, man, you got to label this stuff correctly, and just willy-nilly labeling everyone white supremacist is just ridiculous. Like, come on, man, the fucking president of their group is I believe it's the Enrique Tarrio dude. He is a black Hispanic, I believe. He's like a Latino. It's like, come on, man, you're gonna have to do a lot better. Trying to tell me they're white supremacists is ridiculous. Oh yeah, these white supremacist groups are so smart now, and they're so progressive. They're basically saying, like, it would be like the KKK has their president, their national president is gonna be black or something. Like, that's like, you've lost me, and nobody believes you because you're full of shit. Like, come on, man. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler told the Oregonian that Oregonian, whatever, he believed members of the alt-right like Biggs and Tarrio come to Portland hoping to foment violence, well aware that it is home to a large Antifa contingent, Rose City Antifa. Now, Rose City Antifa is a branded group. They literally sell like t-shirts and mugs and stuff. I believe they're still active on Twitter. For some reason, they are a domestic terrorist organization. They're probably one of the biggest Antifa groups in America. Portland and I believe LA, Portland, San Francisco, and LA are probably the largest contingencies of Antifa. Definitely West Coast thing. And the fact that they're allowed to operate, unencumbered for the most part on social media is shocking. When they ban any right winger, like, instantly, if you say something that these social media companies don't like, people immediately banned on Facebook. Twitter is constantly purging conservative voices, and a lot of people are like, oh, they're extremists, they're white supremacists. Well, okay, well, Sure, there are white supremacists and Nazis and those type of people that get purged. Okay, I've talked about this so much that I'm sick of talking about it, that I think it's a bad idea. You're stifling free speech, and all it does is when you ban these people, you ban extremists from social media from speaking, is they go away. They go away into a dark corner somewhere, where we don't see them, and they get away with saying those things in these dark corners of the internet, and they radicalize. You're making the problem worse when you do that. So I don't necessarily think I want Antifa banned from social media, because they're already a radicalized terrorist group. But I would like them to be arrested. I think that Antifa is a terrorist organization, and their members should be arrested for committing crimes. Investigate, and if they are found to be organizing and committing crimes, they need to be arrested as such. Now, wrapping this up, we are past 30 minutes now. I don't want to make this an hour long, like I said. We need to look at all this stuff and bring it together. Portland is ground zero for the it's the battleground for clashing political violence. They are the spot where the far left organize and demonstrate. A huge focal point of the culture war, the cultural civil war. I don't know. I expected more violence, but that's how these things work. When I cover this stuff, or I went out to a couple of these events over the years. Ferguson protests / riots. I did some of the Baltimore stuff. What was the other one that was fairly close to me? I don't remember, but again, there's just been so much of this stuff, and when I cover it, it's the same thing over and over again, and you never know what's going to happen. What I do know is we're seeing escalating violence in this country. Mainstream media, digital media have been completely negligent and being fair, balanced bastions of truth and information. Man, I could go on about this for an hour. Like, I don't want to keep rambling, because we've covered this stuff, ad nauseum. It's public knowledge. CIA, I don't want to say operatives, directors of CIA have testified before Congress. It's documented, public record, as admitting that they have recruited and or infiltrated American news media for the purposes of controlling information on behalf of the United States government and for their own purposes, their own devices. This is not conspiracy. This is real life. So that's one aspect of why the news is so shitty, is because it's literally being manipulated by the government, by a faction of the government, the CIA. Now, that's one faction, one facet. We also have the profit motive, orange man bad crap, where it's profitable for CNN and Vox and all these other places to bash Trump constantly. All they do is bash Trump. Trump had 3 scoops, like literally the first year he was elected, he was in office, Trump had 3 scoops of ice cream during some function, and the other guests had 2, and it was like this big story, like, oh my gosh, he's so rude. It's like, okay. Trump put ketchup on his steak. Oh my god, that's so savage, unpresidential. And it's like, dude, no one cares. No one cares. It's tabloid gossip. Okay, it's stuff like that. Like, it's profitable. You know, it makes the anti-Trump people eat it up, and they love it. And it's not doing anything. It's not helping anything. It puts people in a frenzy. Just like, you know, MSNBC, Rachel Maddow. I used to love her to death. Oh man, I used to love her so much when I was, you know, late teen, early 20s. I would watch her show religiously. And then I started to wake up. I started to notice the corporate BS. You know, the Gulf oil spill happened, and you know she was ragging on them hard, riding the oil company. And you know, lo and behold, after a week or so, or 2 weeks of that happening, all of a sudden she stopped. Roll commercial, and it's, oh, guess who it is? It's that oil company with with commercials about how great they are, and they're cleaning up, and you know they're striving to do better. And it's just like, okay, I see where this is going. She's literally a shill. Long-winded ramble of closing up, but the point is, when I criticize the mainstream media, when I criticize digital media and I call them fake news, people say, oh, that's interesting. I actually had a family member, they're like, oh, you're using fake news. Well, yeah, that's the term. Like, that's not exclusive to the right. Like, everyone says fake news. You know, I get criticism from people, and I'm like, you know, I'm not here to attack or to belittle people's beliefs necessarily. I'm trying to show people my perspective. Like, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing all these different things are happening, and from my perspective, it is being manipulated on multiple levels. It's very convoluted. It's very complicated, and we are seeing the devolution or whatever you want to call that, of civilized American society. What are we going to do about it? Are we going to sit around and just, you know, oh man, Trump he's wrong for whatever he does. Trump said that he likes drinking water. I guess I can't drink water anymore. Trump likes it. Like, dude, that's not helping anything. That's not solving anything. We have, you know, serious problems right now in this country and in the world. And, you know, I may not be a fan of Trump. I haven't voted for Trump. I don't plan on voting for him in the next election. But he's not literally Hitler. He's not worse than Hitler. Cory Booker said that he's worse than a racist. Like that. Like that stuff means nothing. It means nothing to me. I want to know what you're going to do about jobs. What are your ideas on getting jobs, fixing the economy, making the inflation go down? You know, people's money is worthless. Is not worth what it used to be a generation ago. You know, I want to hear about what we're going to do to end these wars. I want to hear about healthcare. You know, I'm going to end here. If you like this video and you like this content, and you want to support my work and what I'm doing, again, you can hit that like button. That is very important. Comment down below and let me know what you think. Subscribe. That's also very important. Hit that share button is probably the most important thing you could do. Sharing it in this day and age is tantamount to gold on YouTube, because YouTube deranks and demonetizes and does not share. It actually quarantines news, independent news and commentary these days. And it's sad. It's really sad. It's not YouTube anymore. It's their tube. So sharing this really, really helps me if you like my work. Obviously, down in the description below, there are links to donate, like, you know, money, monetary stuff, cryptocurrency, subscription stuff, if you're interested in that as well. So thank you so much for watching, if indeed you still are. And remember that I'm your centrist, voice of reason, in a time of hyper-partisan lunacy. See that there. See you next time, folks.